On a dark spring night in rural Minnesota, a young man picked up his phone, calmly dialed his parents, and said he'd accidentally driven into a ditch. He wasn't hurt, he just needed a ride. He stayed on the phone with them for 47 minutes, walking, describing his surroundings, saying he could see the lights of a nearby town. And then, out of nowhere, he said 2 words. "Oh, shit." Then silence. This is the unsolved disappearance of Brandon Swanson, a case that defies logic, stretches across empty fields and forgotten gravel roads, and ends in a silence that still hasn't been broken. It was May 14th, 2008. Brandon Swanson, 19 years old, had just finished his spring semester at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. He was majoring in wind turbine technology. That night, he was in Canby, Minnesota, celebrating the end of term with friends. He wasn't a reckless kid. By all accounts, he was responsible, cheerful, well-liked. Brandon had a couple of beers that night, but friends later testified he wasn't drunk, just relaxed. Around midnight, he got in his green Chevy Lumina and began the drive home to Marshall, about 30 minutes away. The roads were narrow and dark. There were no lights, just miles of farmland, ditches, and gravel roads. At around 1:15 a.m., Brandon's car went off the road and got stuck in a ditch. He wasn't injured, but he was stranded. He called his parents, Brian and Annette Swanson. Calmly, he told them he believed he was near the town of Lind. He asked them to come pick him up. They got into their truck, kept him on the phone, and headed out. Brandon stayed on the phone with his parents for nearly an hour. They drove to Lind. He said he could see the lights of the town. His parents flashed their headlights. Brandon said he couldn't see them. He flashed his. They saw nothing. Something wasn't right. Brandon said he would start walking toward the lights. He was sure they were Lind. His father drove slowly behind, trying to find him. They kept talking. He was lucid, calm. There was no sense of panic, and then, at exactly 2:30 a.m., Brandon said, "Oh, shit." And then, nothing. The line was still open. But Brandon never spoke again. Brian and Annette were confused. Was it a dropped call? Had he fallen? They called again and again. No answer. The line kept ringing, but no response.